At its heart, the Stygian Library offers something rare in tabletop RPGs. Discovery that belongs to everyone at the table. Not just the players, nor the DM or GM, but everyone. It is an OSR adjacent book, though. It can be used with virtually any gaming system and setting, with a tiny bit of hacking for the stats. Getting back to where we were. The next room, the next clue, the next danger, they're as surprising to the person running the game as they are to the people playing it. The library reveals itself only through play. It refuses to be known in advance. But that's not how most readers approach it. Most people who open this book expect something familiar. A dungeon to map, a setting to memorize, a place full of treasure and monsters. Something they can study and prepare before the session. And when the library refuses to behave that way, it's easy to assume that the book is unclear or incomplete. It isn't, though. The library is doing something different, something procedural, something emergent. It's a space that unfolds only when you step inside. So let's do that. Let's open this door together. So now that we've opened the door, we need to talk about what kind of space we've stepped into. Because the Stygian Library isn't just strange, it's liminal. And that word matters. Think about a half-open door at night. You know that feeling. The shadows inside look deeper than they should, like they're shifting in ways you can't quite name. As a kid, you didn't know what was in that darkness. You just knew it felt like something was there. And that's liminality. It's the moment where your mind tries to fill in the gaps. The space refuses to resolve, so your imagination steps in. And suddenly you're standing at a crossroads. Open the door and see what's there, or close it and make the uncertainty disappear. Either choice kills the fear instantly. The irrationality dissolves the moment you commit. But while you're standing there, while you're suspended between open and closed, the irrational part of you wakes up. That part that still remembers how to be afraid of the dark. That's why things like backrooms feel so unsettling. They look familiar, but wrong. They feel empty, but watched. Your rational mind says, it's just a hallway. But some older part of you whispers, maybe don't stay here. Liminality is that whisper. Emmy Allen's Gardens of Yin and the Stygian Library both live in this territory. They aren't settings in the traditional sense. They're thresholds, places defined by transition, not destination. Spaces that feel like they could tip into meaning at any moment, but never quite do. Even Carcosa from H.P. Lovecraft's domain has that same quality. It's not a place you arrive at, it's a place you pass through quickly. To call something liminal is to say it stands between states, not here and not there, not fully real and not fully unreal either. A space that resists definition because definition would collapse the very thing that makes it what it is. The library is exactly this kind of space. It brushes up against rationality without ever committing to it. It exists, but not in a way that invites permanence. It stirs the irrational part of us precisely because it refuses to explain itself. And like any threshold, it subtly asks a question. Will you step through, or will you close the door? Either choice dispels the fear. Only standing in the doorway keeps it alive. And if the library is a threshold, then a delve is the act of stepping through. Before we do that, we need to ask a simple question. Why would anyone come here at all? Some people enter the Stygian Library on purpose, because this place is a repository of all written knowledge. Everything ever recorded. Everything that will be recorded, and everything that was forgotten along the way. A timeless archive that stretches beyond meaning. If your players want answers no one else can give them, here's where they go. Lost histories, forbidden truths, impossible theories. The library holds all of it somewhere in its shifting corridors and shifting stacks. It's the one place where the answer must exist. And that's enough to draw some people in. But not everyone enters by choice. The library can appear anywhere in a collection of books large enough that you can't see all of it at once, and where someone has died among the shelves. When those conditions line up, a small, unremarkable door might appear. Most people walk past it without noticing. Only the curious or the desperate step through. And if a party wanders in without knowing what they've found, they'll realize very quickly that there's somewhere they probably wish they weren't. That's the real purpose of the library. It's a place you go when you need something you can't get anywhere else. It's not for treasure or glory, and definitely not for a boss fight. It's a truth, and the library will give it to you, eventually, if you're willing to pay the cost. Now that we know why someone might enter, intentionally or by accident, the next question becomes, what does it feel like to go in to the library? The heart of the Stygian Library is a procedural delve, a sequence of roles, tables, and conditions that unfold as we go. We'll explore it together, you as the party of adventurers, and me as the GM. Yes, I said DM and GM. The library doesn't care what system you're using. If your game has stats, great. If not, make some up. The library won't mind. So, let's begin. You, the party, are searching for an answer that can't be found anywhere else. Not because it's obscure, but because every record of it was lost long ago. Who are you? Anyone. Any genre, any composition. For simplicity, you're, you. That's enough. Now, as I am the GM, I have read this book. More than once, actually. Enough to know what's possibly in store for our lucky adventurer, you. But I don't know what will happen next. And here's the truth. I can't plan it. It isn't designed that way. The library reveals itself only through play. All I need from you is the question you're trying to answer. You told me you're looking for something older than old, something forgotten, maybe even unknown. So I checked the chart. That puts your answer at 35. I might tell you that, or I might not. It depends how transparent I'm feeling today. What I must give you, because the rules require it, is your progress tracker. And that's how we measure how close you are to finding what you want. It's an abstract number that's generated. So I ask for the highest intelligence in your party. You say 17. Good. That means your progress starts at 17, and you'll need to reach 35. In other words, you need 18 more progress before the library gives up its secret. Now, these aren't 18 rooms or 18 floors. It's just 18 progress. Again, the abstract number. And that could mean anywhere from 3 rooms to 30. This is the moment the library tells you how deep your answers lie. So we'll go to chart 1. Ready? Yay! Every time you enter a new room, you roll 3 things. The room, the detail, and what's happening there right now. The random event. If you linger, you'll roll another random event. The library rewards curiosity, and it punishes it, but it also punishes you just for standing around, so get moving. Starting at depth 0, roll a d20 and add 0, which is the current depth. We're looking for the first room together. Using page 20, I roll a 14. The statuary, page 63. Okay, sadly these PDFs aren't hyperlinked, so hold on. This is where you are if you're not in an endless dark and winding tunnel full of books. Okay? I read the blurb on the statuary first to myself. Then I roll on the details table to see what else is in the room, which is page 22. I roll a 7, a fireplace. Again, I keep it to myself. Just so you know, this is a bit of detail that makes every room different from the last. Keep in mind, on your journey, you might find 2 or even 3 statuaries. Let's go to the next chart. Lastly, I turn to page 24 and roll on random event. I roll 11. It says there are footprints in this passage. Again, I keep this to myself because I know there are ghosts in this library. So, moving ahead, this time it's on the random encounters table. This is where the world of razor-sharp teeth and hurt comes crashing down on you and me. Anything goes with this one, my friends. Anything. I roll a 4, the Red Librarians, which is on page 114. So the final picture is this. Of course, nobody knows yet, just me. The room, which is a statuary. The detail, which is a fireplace. Event, fresh footprints. Something was here moments ago. And the encounter, Red Librarians. The stats and behavior are found elsewhere. That's 4 rolls and a fair amount of page flipping. All of which I wasn't entirely sure about until I had time to read and internalize everything. The real challenge for me is that no matter how often I read this book ahead of time, I forget details. So I end up rereading the statuary entry multiple times while you wait. And my apologies. I suppose I could have asked you to roll for me without looking things up. However, what's cool is that I get to go on a mini adventure myself. Did you notice? I learned something new. And now I have to improvise, because these elements don't sit there dumbly in an RPG video screen, waiting for you to interact with it. Now, I don't know about you, but I picture these red librarians as taller, more industrious Jawas from Star Wars, talking in quick, clipped alien tongues, going about their business. And a fireplace in a statuary feels like a sort of thing that needs constant maintenance. With that in mind, I turn to you, the party. And this is what you would see. Ahead of you, the tunnel of books opens into a large room. On your immediate left are several pails filled with murky liquid, a rickety wooden ladder that has seen better days, and a scatter of rags and brushes. A small pool of water is sloshed out on one of the buckets and is spread across the stone floor. Statues, life-sized, stone, and posed in various states of repose, stand throughout this large gallery. You hear voices. At the far end of the room, near a large fireplace currently unlit, a group of red-garbed figures move about. One carries a lantern, the other two, which is a d4 equaling 3, are crouched inside the fireplace, cleaning it with a brisk, practiced motion. They chatter in strange clipped syllables, completely oblivious to your presence. What do you do? After you ask your questions or kill these folks or whatever, you come to the big question. What now? You have 3 choices in the library. Stay, go back, or go deeper. And because this is OSR, you know what that means. Limited supplies, dwindling torchlight, and the creeping dread of another random encounter if you dawdle. You chose to go deeper. Of course, I know you would. I wrote this. So, we go through the motions again. Location. Detail. Random event. Encounter. I decide to let the trap spring on the party. I could have warned them. Maybe the researchers were fleeing as the party entered. But I didn't. If the party survives, some researchers might still be alive, just not eaten. So, this is what you see. You wind down into another dark, dusty corridor. Ahead of you, light. You smell petrol. There's an open room ahead. Okay, and of course, as a GM, I'd leave some time for the players to ask questions or make preparations. If not, you proceed. You step into a large chamber. There's an exit to the stacks ahead. The walls are lined with books, scrolls, and manuscripts, as usual. Gas lamps fixed to the walls cast a warm, cozy glow. Copper pipes run along the skirting boards. The floor is a patchwork of hardwood boards, uneven and broken in places, with additional layers of mismatched planks laid haphazardly on top. The room is quiet, except for the soft pop and stutter of the gas lamps, the faint hiss of their steady ignition. What do you do? After you've vanquished the spider, or at least survived its attempt to drag someone screaming beneath the floorboards, you discover that one of the researchers is still alive, but barely. Barely alive. And wouldn't you know it, this particular researcher has been studying an esoteric order. That's good news for you. Your question happens to run parallel to the same knowledge they've been chasing. So you talk. You compare notes, and you piece together what they've learned so far. And because the library rewards curiosity and punishes anything else, you get to roll d4 and add that to your progress. You're now that much further along. Your next delve will be d20 plus 2 plus d4, and the descent continues. Of course, you could stop, you could turn back, you could decide that 2 rooms of dust, danger, and academic trauma are enough for one day. But remember, if you retrace your steps, the library shifts again. Nothing stays where you left it, and nothing waits politely. So think very carefully. And when you're ready, we'll step into room 3. Dear viewer, we'll stop our delve here, okay? By now, the process should be clear. The rhythm of rolling, interpreting, improvising, and letting the library reveal itself one room at a time. You've seen how the pieces fall together. You've seen how the GM discovers the library at the same time as the players. And you've seen how even a simple room can bloom into something strange, dangerous, and unexpectedly helpful. So let's step back from the stacks for a moment and let's talk about why the Stygian Library is often misunderstood, and how once you understand what it is, you can finally get the most out of it exactly as written. At 161 pages, the author describes the Stygian Library as an adventure. That single word clears away 2 of the most common misconceptions. This is not a setting, and it's not a campaign. And yet many readers approach it expecting exactly those things. They're looking for factions, an overarching plot, a central villain, a story to follow, a map to memorize. But the library doesn't offer any of that because it isn't trying to. What it does offer is discovery. Darkened hallways filled with books, procedural rooms that shift as you move, encounters that are strange, unsettling, whimsical, or horrifying. Moments where the GM and players learn something new at the same time. If you go in expecting a traditional structure, the book will feel totally incomplete. If you go in expecting a threshold, yeah, it suddenly makes sense. Let's look at the common complaints. It's too procedural. This is the most common complaint and easiest to reframe. Yes, the library is procedural. Yes, you roll for rooms, details, and events and random encounters. Yes, the GM flips pages, interprets results, and improvises. And that's the point. The library is built on procedural emergence, a design where the world unfolds through play and not preparation. The GM doesn't know what's coming next because the GM isn't supposed to. The procedure is the engine that lets everyone discover the library together. Without the procedure, the GM loses the joy of revelation as well. Without the procedure, the library stops being the library. Next one. There's no story. Correct. And also not correct. There is no pre-written story. There is no plot to follow. There's no villain waiting at the end. But there is a quasi-story. The one created by the parties question, of course. Their progress in the rooms they encounter along the way. But it also has a strange story in itself, which I won't reveal. But you may never encounter it. The library is not a narrative. It is a process that generates narrative. And it's the turning of a page, literally and figuratively. And sometimes many pages. The encounters feel random. That's the next problem, is the encounters feel random. They are, and they should be. In a liminal space, anything can wander in. If something chooses to stay in a place like this, it's probably not something you want to befriend. Some encounters are familiar. Giant worms, liches, strange creatures. Some are whimsical. The busybody red librarians, for example. Some are unsettling or outright dangerous. But none of them are boss fights. None of them are scripted, and there are simply denizens, explorers, custodians, or lost souls who happen to be here at the same moment you are. Even a lich might be too busy reading to bother with you. Next, is it horror or is it whimsical? The answer is yes and no, and both. Emmy Allen cites Terry Pratchett as an influence, and you can feel it in the whimsy of certain encounters. But the library also contains moments of genuine dread. The tone is not fixed, it's emergent. A liminal space demands both. It refuses to commit. It is everything and nothing at once. The GM's interpretation shapes the mood, but the library itself, it remains indifferent. Okay, next. It's too random to be useful. This is the final misunderstanding, and the one that dissolves the moment you run a delve. Yes, the library is random. Yes, the tables are unpredictable. Yes, the GM must interpret and improvise. But the randomness is not chaos. Randomness is possibility. The library is not a story generator. It is a question generator, and a place where answers can be found, if you're willing to pay the cost. So, how do you get the most out of it? You start with a need. Your party needs information, something lost, forbidden, or impossible to find anywhere else. There is a place where that knowledge exists. You won't like it. It is dangerous. You might get lost, and you might not return. Do you choose to go there? And as a GM, you must ask yourself the same question. This adventure requires interpretation, improvisation, and comfort with uncertainty. If you need the safety of a fully scripted module, the library will totally frustrate you. But if you're willing to step into the unknown, the library becomes a rare gift, a place where everyone at the table can share in the revelation. There's no treasure here. Not really. The treasure is the answer you came for. And once you know the library exists, it will linger in your mind. It's a perfect interlude for Call of Cthulhu, for example. A strange doorway in an urban fantasy. A detour in a fantasy campaign when the party needs a truth no one else can give them. Just don't mistake this as a setting. Don't try to live in this place. We're at the end. The Stygian Library isn't a place you master. It's a place you meet halfway. It asks more of the GM than most adventures. Interpretation, improvisation, and willingness to let go of preparation. You can map it out in advance, but doing so strips away the very thing the book promises. Discovery for everyone at the table, including you. And if you're willing to step into that uncertainty, the payoff is quite remarkable. The library becomes a companion piece to any system or any genre. It's a perfect detour for Call of Cthulhu, a strange doorway in urban fantasy, a moment of wonder in classic OSR. Its tone drifts between Terry Pratchett's whimsy and Studio Ghibli's subtle strangeness. It never settling, always shifting. Yes, it's a book of tables and a handful of illustrations. Yes, it's often misunderstood. But its potential is real, and it reveals itself only to those willing to stand on the threshold and take a step inside. When you need it, you'll know, and the library will be waiting.